Alright, so this live is about to get hot, right? This live is about to get hot. And I'm going to break this down too, because this is something that I was thinking about. And for anybody that's saying that we are the indigenous people of the Americas, dealing with our DNA, you need to share this. You need to get this. You understand what I'm saying? Spread this, because I'm about to go over something that the Most High put on my spirit. I was thinking about this for like a few days, right? Now let me continue from the last live, right? So what we were talking about how that Black American people's DNA, right, mostly points to people from sub-Saharan Africa, which is disproving that Black American people are indigenous to the Americas, or that they have that much indigenous DNA. We were talking about how the Black Americans back in 2012 took the DNA test, and it said 25% of their lineage was indigenous, American, the American DNA, American Indian. And then 10 years later, that DNA don't show up anymore on the DNA test. We're talking about how the DNA test seems to deal with populations and how certain populations change, rather than you actually intermixing with other groups of people that's making your DNA test change or making your results change, right? Doing the maternal and paternal line, right? You're talking about how that the DNA test and why they can't tell the difference between certain tribes in Africa, but they could tell you how much Nigerian DNA you got, how much Congolese DNA you got, how much Benin DNA you got, etc., right? So the question is, why is it that if Black Americans are indigenous to the Americas, why is their DNA test always come back saying Africa? Why does it always come back, right? Why does it always come back looking like this dude? Right? So here's the thing, right? This is what was strange to me about the genetic studies done on Black American people's DNA, or Black people in the Americas, so it includes Haitians, Jamaicans, right? So this is like a overdone. Now, when I say overdone it, let me explain to you what I mean by that. In overdoing it, it seems like it has exposed the truth. Because United States transatlantic slave trade happened, Atlantic slave trade happened. Black American people are from West Africa. The DNA test shows that, right? It does a little more than that, which is strange, right? We talking about Black Americans as a whole, right? So if you're familiar with haplotypes, this is how they determine what you are as far as the DNA test and everything, right? Hold on, let me pull this up. A person's haplotype or haplogroups is, different, A all the way to R usually, right? Different ways to categorize different groups of people's DNA in the world. So they're saying that Black American people's paternal lineage, which is the Y DNA, goes back to Africa, and the maternal lineage, right, usually going back to Africa. Now let me tell y'all what they found. Now, not just you taking the DNA test, but as far as the genetic studies, right? Let me tell y'all why that them overdoing it kind of exposed it, right? Black Americans and Black people in the Americas, right? Not only do they have the paternal and the maternal haplotypes of the people that's in West Africa, where they saying the slave trade happened, but all of these people that's in Africa. So what I'm saying is, let me pull this up. Let me pull up a genetic study done on Black American people and their DNA, right? Let me pull this up right now. So take the maternal lineage, right? So you got different maternal haplogroups throughout North Africa, West Africa, Central Africa, South Africa, East Africa, including Madagascar, the island Madagascar, right? So, and this, I'm going to pull up the study, but African Americans carry various haplogroups of macro haplogroup L, including L0, L1, L1B, L1C, L2, L2A, L2B, L2C, L2E, L3, L3B, L3D, L3E, L3F, L3H, L3X, and L4, right? And I'm going to go to the study, right? They're talking about, as you see, the same type of thing, right? On the website. So, genetic polymorphism along mitochondrial DNA, defines population-specific signatures called maternal or mtDNA haplogroups, right? So this is the haplogroup map again for the world, right? They saying that, and not you, maybe you specifically, but as a whole, as far as the genetic studies done on Black Americans, even if you include like Black Caribbean people, right, and Black people down in South America, Central America, like the Brazilians, they saying that our people carry, if not every single, almost every single maternal lineage or haplotype found over there today, right now, today. Which is strange, because if we came from West Africa, okay, wouldn't we just have the West African, or at least the West African and the Central African haplotypes? Why do we have haplotypes that are found from people in Sudan and Ethiopia, Madagascar, Libya, Algeria? Now, mind you, there's a good amount of Black Americans that have taken the DNA test, and they have gotten DNA that was strange. And a good amount percentage of Moroccan DNA, Algerian DNA, Madagascar DNA, Ethiopian DNA, Sudanese DNA, Chad. And it's like, wait a minute, this ain't where the slave trade happened. So when they say that Black Americans take DNA tests and it shows all of this Africa stuff, that we're from Africa, and they're like, ha, it doesn't come out like indigenous, the indigenous lineages is dealing with this stuff. You see C, D up here in the pink, where it's Asia. This stuff comes over into the Americas, and that becomes the lineage that they kind of like taunting us for not having, which is marked as American Indian maternal haplotypes, right? So I'm like, okay, the paternal. With the paternal, which is the Y DNA now, same thing. See, they have a group E, A, B, also. Again, same thing. Not only are they saying that Black Americans and Black people in the Americas, Haitians and all that, have the West African paternal haplotypes, but almost, if not all, the paternal, meaning your father's lineages, haplogroups, are found inside of Black men over here in the Americas. And I'm like, wait a minute. And the thing is, right, this is why I believe in balance. I'm not a Buddhist, but I believe in balance. Because if you overdo something, you're going to expose the truth. If we descend from Black people, right, who are from the Atlantic slave trade, West Africa, got brought over here, how do, okay, you say y'all don't have indigenous ancestry. Y'all got African ancestry. But not only do we have African ancestry, we have haplotypes that's attributed to all of the people that's in Africa, from Morocco all the way down to South Africa, including Madagascar. At that point, what does that have to do with the Atlantic slave trade? How are we getting Moroccan DNA, Libyan DNA, Sudanese DNA? How is that happening? So check this out, right? Something came to me. I was like, wait a minute, right? So what type of, okay, let's say if the DNA test wasn't messed up, right? How would we even prove that we have indigenous DNA, that we descend from those people so long ago? What would we necessarily be looking for? Because this is the thing. Check this out. Let me show y'all something real quick, right? But if we take the DNA test and it says we got all these lineages, all these haplotypes in us that have to do with Africa, right? Check this out. You get mad at that. But at the same time, we don't want to take the DNA test and get what that those people get. Because, you know, the people that we calling, right, that we saying that they're not real indigenous people, that they came through Siberia. We don't want that either. That would not be good either. I don't want to take a DNA test and say Native America, because it's talking about them people that's in the reservations. And we're not saying that we descend from them people that's in those reservations. So we don't want that either. So, for example, if I wanted to prove I was indigenous and that those people are not the real indigenous people, if I take a DNA test, or we take a DNA test, right, what would it look like to prove what we've been saying? What have we been saying? We've been saying, right, that these type of looking people, so they got to the Maya in Central America, that these people, right, are Black people. All this stuff. That's what we're saying. We're saying that, and especially for the Black people that live out there in Central America, what they call Afro-Mexican, Afro-Honduran, this is their ancestors. We're saying that this is their ancestors, the Black people in Central America, go back to the Mayas and all these indigenous groups, right? Even in the book that I was showing y'all, right? Let me pull this up. Even in the book that was showing y'all, where they found stuff looking like this, right? They found stuff looking like this over there, Guerrero and Veracruz, right? Pull some more of that up. Hold up. What's the grand one? I put the grand one behind me. The first one I put on here. This one. Right? So, we're saying, okay, we're not African. We didn't come from Africa, right? First thing you gotta ask yourself, right? Is what is African DNA? And what is indigenous DNA, right? Let me put it in two ways without even having to use that term indigenous or African, because we already know about that. Got dodged or hijacked that word Africa. Right, check this out. So, American Indian DNA, indigenous DNA, the American DNA, according to these DNA test people, are these certain haplotypes that came from Asia over here into the Americas. They're later haplotypes, but watch this. Haplotypes are usually go from A all the way to a certain letter, right? And certain haplotypes are younger than others. Meaning, when you're dealing with the original human haplotypes, those would be the oldest haplotypes, the oldest maternal and paternal lineages on Earth. Going back to the original people, which were black people, right? Now, the haplotypes, maternal and paternal, in a lot of these indigenous people that the DNA test is marking as maternal and paternal American Indian and Native American lineages, these are younger haplotypes, right? So you ever heard them say that the people in Africa have the oldest DNA on Earth? That people in Africa, black people in Africa, not just the black, but just all from Morocco, South Africa, that peoples indigenous to Africa, population in Africa, have the oldest DNA on Earth. Going back to the original people, the original humans, which we claim we the original people. But we saying that we was over here in the Americas, right? So, when they say, for example, that we have DNA that's similar to people in this part of Africa and that part of Africa, and we carry the maternal and paternal lineages from Africa, and we don't carry the ones from the Americas. Check this out, right? Without saying African DNA, those lineages that they saying are mainly found amongst the people in Africa, they're older, right? They're older than all the other forms of DNA in this world, right? So let me ask y'all a question. If we was here in the Americas first, wouldn't we have the oldest maternal and paternal lineages? And then, right, other than us over here, you got people in Africa that have the oldest maternal and paternal lineages. So how y'all know it's not the other way around? Right? Not that anybody went anywhere. Not that we went to Africa or the Africans came to the Americas. No, not even that, right? These are simply the oldest maternal and paternal lineages on Earth, right? So if we were here first, right, and these artifacts of people that looked like this, that was here over 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, right? This stuff I was showing y'all in this book that they found in Central America. This man would not have the younger type haplotypes, haplogroup X, haplogroup C, all the stuff that they marking as Native American that look like them Asiatic people, them East Asian type of looking people, right? He wouldn't have that. He would have the older maternal and paternal haplotypes, which not only are found amongst the people in Africa, but it's also found amongst our people here. That's why it's saying we got every maternal and paternal lineage that's found in Africa. Because it's not about it being African DNA or Native American DNA. The lineages we have are simply older. We're black people over here in the Americas. There are people over there in Africa. If we have the oldest lineages, it's not about which continent we on. All that matters is that it's older. Now, this is the juicy part. This is where it starts getting biased. Because even though they say that the people of Africa have the oldest maternal and paternal lineages on Earth, let me put them all back up. Let me put them all back up. Look at all of these lineages, bro. Oh, I'm going in. Oh, I gotta put this on my YouTube. Hold up. Let me pull this up real quick, right? Again, that's like every maternal lineage in Africa. Like I said, L0, L1, L1B, L1C, L2, L2A, L2B, L2C, L2E, L3, L3B, L3D, L3E, L3F, L3H, L3X, and L4. All of that, mind y'all, all of those lineages most of those lineages don't originate in West Africa. So how do we have them? These are the oldest maternal lineages on earth that are found amongst black people over here in the Americas and the people that's over there in Africa. So with that being said, why is it labeled as African maternal? That's why I said instead of calling them African maternal, because they'll tell you that these are the oldest maternal lineages on earth and that they came from Africa. First of all, I don't know how that they would know if that these came from Africa. But without even saying Africa, they admitted that what this is the oldest maternal lineages on earth. So that means that the first people, right, that ever existed, all humans, the first people, this is what their maternal lineages was looking like before all of the other stuff that's on this map going up here in Europe and Asia that they say came over here to the Americas. This stuff was first. This stuff is not only found in Africa, it's being found amongst us. And they're saying that is because of the transatlantic slave trade when they took West African people and brought them over here. So if they brought them over here, right, that would explain what? Why we have the ones from West Africa, but why do we have all of them? Why do we have all of them? That doesn't explain that. If they say we came from West Africa, that's why we got the paternal lineages associated with the West African people, right? Us over here, black Americans, Haitians, black Brazilians, etc., Bayesian people. But why do we have all of them, though? All of them. There's different black Americans that are taking the DNA test and they're getting not just results from West Africa, but all over. They're doing genetic studies and they finding maternal and paternal lineages, not only from West Africa, but all over. So are they sure that the reason why that there's similarities between the maternal and the paternal lineages of our people over here and the people that's over there in Africa is because of the transatlantic slave trade, or because that black people was here first and that explains this? And all of this stuff I've been showing y'all. Because, right, if these people had the oldest maternal and paternal lineages on earth, these people were on the earth way before all of this other stuff comes into play. All these other lineages, D1, X, C, R, all this stuff, before all of those come into play, we existed. The first people with the oldest lineage. So this is where they start getting biased again. Because now they're going to say that even though these people were there all that time, the original people were all of these different, right? The original people, the original lineage, the original human lineage, the original man and woman. Right, the black man and woman. Even though that we existed first, they gonna say we didn't reach the Americas first. We didn't reach Europe first. We didn't reach Australia first. We didn't reach the Pacific Islands first. Nah, these people had to mutate. They mutated before they reached all these places, and even after. So before and after they reached all these places, they mutated. Come on, bro. You got to dodge the hijack. The Most High put this on my spirit for like the whole week after going into that book. And I'm like, but after going into that book, bro. Let me go back up to that stuff, right? After going into that book and seeing all of that stuff, and I'm like, and it's told you, especially it was being found in far Mexico, Guerrero and Veracruz, where a lot of those Afro-Mexicans are at. And I'm like, why is it that, like, you trying to tell me they haven't found any remains over there that's dealing with, and the problem with me is my dumb self was thinking that they would have to find a whole new haplotype, because I know about genetics. I'm thinking if that basically to disprove that those people that they're calling indigenous are indigenous, right? I'm thinking that they would have to find like a whole new haplotype that's not African, and then at the same time not Siberian. Not understanding that the word African is getting me. What's that noise? They playing in my house. Hold up. I thought somebody was outside calling me. Hold up. Right? But like I was saying, I was on the roll with it. I'm thinking that there would have to be like a whole new haplotype found. Like it would be something like was a missing. Exactly. I'm thinking. So you understand what I'm saying, right? So let me think of a haplogroup that doesn't exist, a lineage that doesn't exist genetically, right? Let's say there was something called haplogroup Z. My dumb self thinking that they would have to find like a haplogroup Z inside of us or inside of one of the remains to be like, wait a minute, this isn't African, this isn't Asian, this is an American Indian, and it has no. But I'm not thinking though. I'm thinking too much about the word Africa and American Indian and all of this stuff. The fact that they're finding African haplotypes inside of us makes the most sense because the African haplotypes are the oldest. So this, whatever maternal or paternal, take this one right here, right? Whatever maternal or paternal lineage that will be inside of these artifacts that I was seeing in this book, that are inside of the people that are depicted in this book, right? And the Mayas and all this stuff that we be pulling up, whatever lineage that will be inside of them would have to be a lineage, exactly, a global DNA. Not that it's so not just African DNA. Yes, the oldest human DNA. Before we want to restrict it to the continent, the oldest DNA. But the thing is, they trying to tell us that the people that had that oldest DNA didn't go from continent to continent. That's not true. Because now we know that's not true. So when they give us a DNA test, when they giving us a DNA test and it's coming back looking like this, like, oh yeah, that's Nigerian. No, that's not. You see what I'm saying, right? And it even beyond that, brothers getting all type of stuff. I talk about Madagascar. I'm looking like Madagascar. You said we slaves from West Africa. How you get Madagascar? Then they got all these excuses. I'm like, nah, bro. We would have the oldest, if we had the oldest DNA on Earth, and these people that wove in the Americas first were black people. When we take the DNA test, it would say Africa because the only other place on this Earth that has people with those, matter of fact, this ain't the only oldest place, because it's also Pacific Islanders and Melanesians and the Aboriginal Australians that be getting some of this stuff. So I'm like, so the DNA test ain't wrong in the sense of what they find in literally as far as like our genotype and the genes, but how that they expressing this, Benin and that's not right. That's not right. So the thing is, man, you got to go all the way into this thing to dodge the hijack. I had to dissect the maternal and the paternal thing and how that they group what is what. All of these are found in the Americas. All of these, not just the stuff along the coast, not just the coast. We could ride the coast. No. The whole thing, this whole thing is found in North America, Central America, South America, the Caribbean, and us. And they saying that that's because of the West African transatlantic slave trade. Make that make sense? This whole thing, I'll go again. Look. That's crazy. L0, L1, L1B, L1C, L2, L2A, L2B, L2C, L2E, L3, L3B, L3D, L3E, L3F, L3H, L3X, and L4? All of that. And that's the whole continent of Africa has that stuff. So what that's telling you is that this stuff, right, which is the oldest human maternal lineage, as they say, that means that there was people in the Americas that had this stuff. That's why when we take the DNA test, it's giving us all of that stuff saying Africa. But they trying to group this as African DNA and such and such. And that's why, like, which is what inspired me to make this whole live. That's why that when I searched, why can't DNA test tell us the African tribe? That's why it's talking about DNA tests can't tell what tribe you are from, because people in Africa today are descended from different populations with different DNA. For example, African Americans are a mix of many different African ethnic groups, and no one is an ancestor from the past, which is what Dane Calloway said. Most people have multiple ethnic and ancestral backgrounds, and ethnicity is a socio-cultural factor that changes over time. and they was colonizing us to Africa. Exactly. 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 They exposed themselves. They saying they can't tie us to a tribe because what? Because they know that those people's DNA is not just simply African DNA. It's too old. It's too old. And if any of those people that was indigenous to the Americas, if they was here first, that's what they would have in them. They wouldn't have a different type of DNA if they was here first. You know who would have a different type of DNA? Those people. Those people. Mesopotamians are connected. Yep. Those people. So the fact that we taking the DNA test and people's Native American DNA is disappearing, but the Native American DNA is the DNA of what? People that had haplotypes that came from Siberia, that they saying crossed over. That crossed over. They mean later DNA. They won't call it that though. They won't say earliest DNA and later DNA. How the last people got here first? Stop playing with me. How the last people got here first, bro? How? How do the last lineages on Earth get anywhere first? That makes no sense. And they're going to call us Afrocentric or black supremacists for saying this. You got some of the later, that's like the difference between Windows 10 and Windows 98. Windows 10 don't do nothing before Windows 98 or Windows 2000 or Windows XP. They can't have the later or the last lineages, right? They can't have the later or the last lineages on this earth and get anywhere first. You try to tell me we had this stuff inside of us the whole time? We just sitting down in Africa like this. I can't build a boat to get to America. It's such an insult to our intelligence, and you got people that's going to tell us that because we going into this that we don't want to be African. I'm like, man, it's deeper than being African. It's about being the original man. Cannot stop us from crossing this ocean to that ocean. How do you think that Columbus and them even got there? How do they think that these people even got to place? So, right, I just wanted to go over that real quick, right? Going into this whole haplotype thing, why we take the DNA test, it's saying African DNA, and yet they doing genetic studies, and it's like we got every single maternal and paternal lineage in this place is being found over here. I just had to go on that real quick, right? I'm gonna say this. I gotta put this on my Instagram. I gotta put this on my YouTube. Definitely, right?